American sports car racing has deep roots, and there are tracks whose history are intensely wound among it. One of the most unlikely of those circuits is perhaps Lime Rock Park. Who would have thought that a track under 2 miles in length, tucked away in the hills of New England and handcuffed by the ability to only race on Saturdays, would become one of the most revered and well-known road courses in the country? Such is part of the unique tale of this tiny bull-ring racetrack. Let's see how our drivers handle it as we get ready to watch round 2 of the PRL GTE Sports Car Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Ossian Puhaka. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Because of the short lap length, this place is notorious for lap traffic and a severe lack of overtaking spots. To get a better visual on why that is, why don't we head on down to our track guide. Welcome to Lime Rock Park. Located in the northwest corner of Connecticut, this unassuming little track has garnered a surprisingly passionate following. Its unique aspects create a circuit not only full of character, but consistently challenging even to modern race cars. While it has 4 different possible layouts, on the classic version, only 7 corners are split along a 1.5 mile track with just a single one of them turning left. Though simple in appearance, most drivers will tell you that trying to be fast here is anything but. The run down the front stretch into Big Bend offers pretty much the only viable passing spot, but it's a double apex right-hander which lures drivers into taking it too fast. The uphill is also scary quick considering its lack of runoff and can sometimes cause cars to get airborne over its crest. Then, on the opposite end, the downhill sends cars diving into a quick sweeper which requires a good exit speed in order to defend or attack back into the first corner. Modern racing mostly uses the more recently built chicanes, especially at the uphill. But one of the most unusual facts about this track is that the races are never held on Sunday. Due to a legal agreement with a nearby church, events must take place on Fridays and Saturdays. The confines around this place are tight, the passing opportunities are few, and mistakes are usually punished with race-ending damage. With most other road courses now being built with upwards of 3 and 4 miles in length, this track stands out. But in an age of multi-million-dollar facilities and flashy buildings, this quaint small circuit manages to keep fans coming back with its intimate and grassroots setting. Really is a fun little track, offers some unique challenges around here, but with as many cars and as fast as these cars are, Ossian, I mean, what are we looking at with the type of racing here today?
Oh, it's gonna be crowded show. It's gonna be plenty crowded. You got 1.5 miles or 2.41 kilometers, as we say in the civilized world, and 9 turns out here on Lime Rock Park. And when you put almost 40 cars around this track, it's gonna be an absolute traffic jam, especially later on in this race. But it's a fast circuit, it's a flowing circuit, and I really think it can provide some good racing for the next 60 minutes.
Well, I'm looking forward to that racing myself, but as always, today's race is brought to you by SIMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring organizations, companies, manufacturers, teams, and drivers together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. They're also bridging virtual and real motorsports by providing a network between these two, involving sim racers, real drivers, teams, managers, engineers, and of course, motorsport fans alike. You can find out more about how you can get involved at simsa.net. Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products create an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. The winner of Division 1 here in the PRL GTE Sports Car Series will get a Butt Kicker Gamer 2 or a simulation kit. Also, both drivers of the winning team in the team's championship will get a free t-shirt. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. Now, speaking of those championships, of course, we got the Drivers' Championship, which now has points on the board, and Carl Modoff back to his winning ways ahead of Jesse Stevens right now, and then Rodrigo Mies behind him. So some different names up at the front. In fact, really, if I'm honest, the only of the top 5 that we've seen in the previous seasons is Karl Modov. Otherwise, it's all rookies up here at the top, but proving themselves to not necessarily be rookies in terms of speed. Ossian, what about the team's championship? Has that changed as well?
There are some changes in the team championship too, and you look at Punto CR Racing Red. The powerhouse last season also doing well this season with Radicals Online in second place, SRT Esport Blue third, L1 Esports fourth, and GDR Ventus Rensport SET in the fifth place. And interestingly enough, places 3, 4, and 5 are all within the same point range, all have 41 points from the first round of this season.
So glad to see it's tight there still as we watch the drivers try to find some space and qualify. Now, here's what this race will entail. As we mentioned, we are in round 2. They do have a drop week. However, they cannot use that drop week in the final round. So when it comes down to that, you have to show up and you have to race. There's 4 different makes of cars that you can see that you can use on iRacing. This is all GTE class cars. This race is going to be 60 minutes. And even though it is open setup, they will be forced to take a pit stop because they've limited the fuel cells compared to what you have in the real world. They also have incident caps, and that not only involves a disqualification at 20, but at 13, you will be given a drive-through. So you got to keep it clean. That is your warning before you obviously get removed from the track at that 2-0 mark. They have bonus points on hand, fast lap, 4 or 3 or less incidents, and drivers will be hard-pressed to try to keep it at 3 or fewer incidents here, I have to imagine, considering how tight this track is and how many cars are going to be out there. So up at the front of the qualifying for now, Ozzy, it looks like Nicholas Rubelar has got the quickest time, and impressively for how quick the laps are, he's got nearly 2/10 over Christian Eisler.
Yeah, and it's very, very interesting as to how he has done that, because you look at the practice times, and he was only P number 3 behind Jesse T. Stevens and Rodrigo Mies, my personal tip for Rookie of the Season honors. You know, the Chilean racing driver? Yeah, he's back. Remember him from round 1? I sure do. But he's nowhere in qualifying yet, only in P number 9. But yeah, 2/10 of a gap in Lime Rock Park, that sure is impressive. Christian Eisler in second place and Christopher Pfeffer in P number 3 right now, ahead of Jesse T. Stevens and Ignacio Rodriguez Fredes. So that is an interesting field. Another interesting note, you know, we have butt kicker sponsoring this series. Speaking of kicking butt, Karl Modov only in P number 16 so far.
Well, looks like he just put in a slightly quicker lap, but that only gets him up to 7th. He's at least cracked into the top 10. And passing is known to be a little bit tough out here. There doesn't seem to be too many opportunities. But granted, this is the first time we've seen this series race on the latest version of Lime Rock. A long time iRacing had that old scan from the mid-2000s, Ozzy, and now they've got that chicane. Does that offer a chance to pass, or is there just not enough of a run?
Ooh, I don't see anyone passing into the chicane, not for a position anyway. Or if they do make the pass, then it's gonna be one and done. You can't really race through the chicane, it's so narrow. I don't think it offers a passing opportunity as much as it offers an opportunity to catch up and then get a good run into the penultimate corner, then into the last corner and onto the main straight, which is the only real passing opportunity still out here on this track. So it's not going to be easy, but you know, as long as you can fit 2 cars alongside each other, you can pass.
You have the old Kevin Brown theory. Sure do miss Kevin on this channel. He used to tell us that the whole track is a passing zone. No matter where we went, we watched Karl Modov continue to try and find pace. I guess the good news is, despite all the traffic that we are seeing out here in qualifying, is it's pretty quick to try and iterate, because a lot of the drivers have gotten a ton of laps in already, and we still have 5 minutes left to go. Rubelar, who is still our provisional pole sitter, has not gone quicker since we last looked, but look at this. Horatio Calquin up to second place. The number 70 finds himself within a 10th of our leader now.
And our leader now is Karl Modov. And no, it's not. Jesse T. Stevens goes faster. So it is happy hour out here today, but yeah, great lap from Calquin. And let's see if he can hold on to that top 5 position until the end. Well, early on, we were looking at 1:48.5 and then a 48.7 next time by, so 2 tenths slower. And now we are looking at 48.4, 48.5, and we have another two 48.5s as well. So they are getting faster as the qualifying progresses, the track improves, and there is more rubber in there, and drivers, most importantly, improve, and they are able to find some clear air.
What's interesting is you called it happy hour, but the sun's finally come out, which tends to slow the cars up a little bit. Track temperature is about 98 degrees Fahrenheit currently, and it's pretty low winds. So it's vaguely hot, but not extremely hot out here.
Yes, and 98 Fahrenheit is 37 Celsius.
There we go. I was wondering what the correct units would be as they were. Now, looking at our track map, the one thing that we should note is the orange zone is back again. Now, if you didn't tune in last week, they've implemented a new rule this year. They have the stewards have called the orange zone at the start of the race. If you look at the track map, what is considered the no-name straight, and that is the straight before the chicane there up at the very top. The orange zone ends right there. What that means is that drivers who run into an incident on the first lap in that orange zone will be under steward scrutiny automatically to see if they feel like that merits a penalty for unsafe driving. Because of so many incidents happening on first laps in races prior, they're just trying to clean things up and encourage drivers to try and have a good start.
Yeah, and I think that is a great rule actually. I think it is. Because in start, especially rolling starts, but also standing starts, but especially rolling starts, there is always that one guy you see on ovals. The one guy who leaves a bit of a gap, tries to pull a sneaky, and tries to look ahead when will the leader start, and then he will mash the accelerator and get a jump on like the 2, 3, 4 rows of cars ahead of him, and then they are 4 wide heading into turn number 1. Then this gentleman who drives into the corner and gets into an accident inevitably, especially if you do it on a place like this, in Lime Rock Park, then he will be like, oh come on, you should have used your mirrors, or it's always like this at the start. And it's usually also the same gentleman who will before the race say, I'm just here for SR.
You make it sound like you've experienced this a few times.
Yes, I have driven in official races.
The the tale is
No,
old
it's
as
not
time on
always
the
like
horizon.
that.
Yeah.
But,
Watch
you know,
Fredis. Coming across the line. He's actually still in ninth, and he was up pretty high earlier. Oh, and he's going to have to actually avoid a spinning Kyle Strykars, who causes quite an accident. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, we had a couple of cars actually getting collected here, and Elijah Mitchell deciding that, you know what, I'm not gonna get a part of that hitch, went straight on into turn number 1. But yeah, Kyle spun around her, and a couple of other cars were collected as well. And the thing is, that is very, very much the last chance to improve their lap times now. So a couple of guys already gone from the chance of improving their position, and a couple of guys trying really hard out there too. I was looking at Nick Rubilard here, and he went quite wide into the chicane, but he's still trying his best and trying to see if he can improve his position.
Sitting down in third right now. He's coming through the diving turn and onto the front straight, one of the fastest corners on this track. Let's see what he's got. It's a 49.1. That's well off of his quickest time, and this is going to be his last try.
Yeah, and look at the way he came onto the main straight. You saw him just there coming across the diving turn. He was right on the edge of the track. He was leaving no millimeters between himself, his left side tires, and the grass. So he was absolutely on it. And then you see him coming into the chicane, getting a wide entry, not quite hitting the apex there, hitting the next two ones just nice, but leaving a little bit of leeway maybe between himself and the first curb on the right. The penultimate corner going very wide indeed, and that's a very close to an off-track penalty. I think there will be interesting to see. No, that's not a legit lap. That's not a legit lap. He will have to pit, so he screwed it up in the penultimate corner, sadly.
So did Modoff abandon his lap? Romig will as well. Looks like Ted Lowendick will not find more time. He's about 0.2 off his quickest. Here we got Kyle Strykars, the New Yorker, down in 20th. He's going to want to find some time here, and he's not going to get it this time.
Yeah, I think Rodrigo Mies is still on the lap. I didn't catch if he actually went early enough into that final lap, but he's coming pretty fast, so we'll have to wait and see. Coming right at Cronono, he's braking too, so he didn't get a proper lap in. But Rodrigo Mies in P number 6 with a 48.7. It's a tight field, and Joe, it's a very interesting field as well.
Yeah, we saw Miller right there at the end did improve his lap. So let's go through the grid now. It is going to be Jesse Stevens trying to capture that win that he missed out on last week. He'll be starting just ahead of Karl Modov, just next to Karl Modov, we should say. Nicholas Rubelar will be starting in third, with P4 going to Horatio Calquin. Then it's Stephen Ash in fifth position, Rodrigo Mies in sixth, and Christopher Pfeffer in seventh. Christian Eisler starts eighth today. You've got Ignacio Rodriguez Fredes in the inside of row 5, and Michael Ross starting in 10th.
Caleb John Lavender starts 11th, just outside of her top 10, with Mac Miller in 12th place and Ken Huber 13th. Zach Roderick 14th, Anthony Pisano 15th, and it's Elijah Mitchell, Sean Romick, Jean-Marc Tremblay in 16th, 17th, and 18th. You got Rafael Russo 19th and Kyle Strykars rounding out your top 20.
21st goes to Ted Lowendick with David Duino in 22nd. Then it's Jason Hodgson in 23rd and Louise Palm-Heim Jr. in 24th. Sean Duhamel starts 25th today. Then you got Brett Thurman, and to his caddy corner is James Heaven, 27th. To the right of him is Jeff Carollo in 28th. Donald Olson starts 29th, and Lawson Christie in 30th. Last few that qualified are Kenny Rodriguez in 31st, James LeBon in 32nd, and Stacy Dunnigan in 33rd. Peterson and Kraus did not put times in. Peterson does not appear to be in the session, but Kraus is. So I believe we are going to be seeing 34 drivers take the start as they now line up on that Sam Posey straight, waiting for the pace car to take off.
Indeed, and another interesting note is that you know how in oval races, drivers usually have spotters out there watching over them, giving them guidance, and you can actually see them when you see the connected list.
So as we wait for them to get started on that pace lap, it is round 2, as we mentioned. Last time we saw Karl Modov take the win and Jesse Stevens finish in second, but it's a very different picture starting this race off with Stevens on the pole and Modov still in second place. So a reversal. Can he manage to get himself in front? Now taking off behind the pace car. One of the things that honestly I liked or like about this scan compared to the older version here, Ozzy, is even though I know people like to have a little bit of character on the track, the fact that it got rid of a lot of the bumps that the old scan had, I enjoy racing this version so much more.
Yeah, it is a great version. And I had a point actually about that, the spotter thing in the ovals. You don't usually see it on the roads so much, but Jesse T. Stevens actually has a spotter. So that's very interesting. We'll be seeing if that comes into play as well. Usually on the roadside, you see them more in endurance racing, not necessarily in races 1 hour long, because endurance starts at 4 hours or 6 hours. But it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, the Lime Rock Park, the new scan, it's not as bumpy as before. It's a bit easier than before, and it's a lot better looking than before. That's for sure.
Yes. It was actually the first track that iRacing scanned of any of its circuits. So hence why the scan was so dated as it was, as it was taken before the service even was made public.
Yes.
Well, this one, much more recent, nice and flashy and shiny and very fun to drive. But how much fun is it going to be with 40 cars on track, 34 cars exactly out there on the circuit at the same time? The Porsche pace car now peeling in, and Stevens has control of the field. He's waiting patiently. Still giving it some time, backing them up. Green flag is out, and it's go time. Stevens has got a good jump on Modov, and he's already going to be swamped by Nicholas Rubelar to his inside, and Calquin actually actually bottled up on the outside, can't go anywhere. Too wide for much of the field, coming through Big Bend. Top three managed to get single file. So far, so good. I'm not seeing any accidents.
No, not at all. It's clean all the way to the back.
Big problem there for Stephen Ash, who has to fall, or excuse me, not Stephen Ash, Horatio Calquin, who falls behind Stephen Ash, coming through the S's, and he falls down into 5th position through that. Now they get into the chicane for the first time. Oh, definitely got a pile up back there. Duino in there, I see.
Brett Turman as well. A lot of damage for him. And it was actually Brett Turman who kind of was trying to avoid the whole mess, only to hit his teammate actually. Brett Turman actually went and hit Tremblay all the way from the back just by trying to avoid that mess. That was interesting.
That is a shame. And we saw a Porsche off track coming off of diving turn. Not sure who that was, but they had a hell of a ride there. Thankfully, did not result in a wreck. Karl Modov took a look on Nicholas Rubelar, who has been overtaken by, and he's not able to get that second place back, but they are staying with our leader, Jesse Stevens, not letting him get away quite yet. Now, it sounds like we got the replay spooled up. Why don't we take a look at what happened here? This is the 948.
Yeah, this is the 948, and you can just see him getting in there very late into the brakes, and
sorry, it's the 5 we want. This is Duino now that we're watching. Duino was one of the ones involved, and here it's going to happen right here. He was an innocent bystander. He actually got away pretty good on that. He just had to cut the course. So probably got a slowdown out of that. But light contact for him. Trying to see who else that was involved.
There was one of the there were the 2 teammates at least involved. Tremblay was one of them involved. Jean-Marc Tremblay in car number 27 was definitely involved in that one. And then there was the other Ferrari who is down the pit lane, and that's Brett Turman, car number 69, who is actually on the pit lane and will not be able to continue this race, at least so far. He got such heavy damage in that one. And he was the guy you saw cutting across the track as well.
And a bit of a shame for him to have that sort of start to his race, especially because they have no spare car. If you get that damage, you just got to hop in and try and get it repaired as best you can. We are watching Jesse Stevens now with about a half-second lead over Rubelar. And Karl Modov still giving chase. They're leaving behind Stephen Ash just slightly. Poor Horatio Calquin, who got overtaken by Ash, has continued to lose places. Rodrigo Mies, who you tipped to be one to watch, has got himself now up to 5th.
Yeah, and he's doing very well. He has a lot of clean air ahead of him as well. He's behind Ash, and he's well ahead of the guys behind Horatio Calquin, for example. He's almost a second ahead of him now. You got Pfeffer, you got Eisler, you got Fredes, and then you got Lavender behind him. So he can just, get his pace going, see the guys in front, see what they are doing, and, just pace himself to a 1-hour race. And remember last time we had an amazing battle, which Rodrigo Mies was very much involved in. The one with, I think, GTE Stevens for the second place. We know that this man, Rodrigo, he can race.
Really, the closest fight that we've got up at the sharp end of the field is for 10th, 11th, and 12th. John Lavender trying to hold back Ross, Broderick, and Huber. Of course, as soon as we go to it, he gets a little bit of a gap. In fact, he's pulling closer to Fredes, if anything. Clearly finding a little bit of pace now that he's got the car underneath him. We're going to watch from the helicopter as they plunge into Big Bend. Someone had a lockup in front of them with a few puffs of smoke.
Yeah, that was very interesting. How late they were breaking into turn number 1. I'm trying to see who it was briefly. I think it was Calquin who was locking up very deep. Yeah, Calquin was very deep into turn number 1 with his BMW, but he got away with it.
They must be wrong how Calquin's car is handling, because not only losing spots, but clearly not got the best out of it right now. We're on board with him, looking at Christopher Pfeffer, who's now challenging to see if he can demote him yet another place. Calquin started P4. He's in 6th. He could fall to 7th. Pfeffer's got a decent run. but he is well too far back, even with a little bit of a peak. Obviously, the 66, not with a serious attempt here.
No, not at all. And you can't really take a serious attempt just yet. He has to wait and see. He's seeing Horatio having trouble. But to him, he doesn't necessarily want to pass him right now. He wants to wait and see if Horatio can get the car under him or not. Because that's the faster way. They still want to get ahead. And remember, Lime Rock Park, not a lot of great overtaking opportunities. So you're gonna potentially lose more time passing him than you will lose by waiting behind him, especially if he can get the car under him.
So as this calms down, back to Lavender, and just as we went away from him, he falls back once again. So Richard Ross with another opportunity, and the black number 67, the Ford closes in, but once again, like we heard from Ozzy, it's just a little bit too early for aggressive moves, so he's going to stay patient behind the Porsche 991.
Can I just say that Ford GTE looks absolutely fantastic and so mean in matte black.
I agree. I absolutely agree.
And that is a gorgeous race car.
I know it's not traditionally Ford's colors, but I think it would have been beautiful if they had done that. But then I am partial to black cars, so as he comes down through diving turn, he's dropped off once again from the 999. Behind him, don't count out Zach Broderick. He's been staying kind of hovering around, just kind of watching all that's happening in that number 14, seeing if maybe there's going to be an opportunity coming out of this, driving in the very stable BMW.
Yeah, and he's looking very stable indeed. I'm just wondering how, if two BMWs can actually fit alongside here at Lime Rock Park. Of course, he's got a Ford ahead of him right now, but that's going to be a problem if he ever catches up to Fredes, for example. Because, you know, BMW, it's a big boy. I know the joke's been run to the ground, and Broderick just now actually catches too much of the curb. And that means he's going to have not a spin, not even a half spin, but just a little bit of a moment where the left rear tire catches some air, and he's going to lose some time and potentially a position as well, and did actually lose it because Ken Huber got ahead of him. So, well, don't count him out just yet. You just said it, but Broderick probably gonna want that position back and gonna want that time back as well.
Oh, and Lavender, did he get passed by Ross? Yes, he did. I think Ross just made the move into turn one. Absolutely mugged him.
Yeah, and we're gonna have to replay here as well, you know. Michael Ross just braking so very late, so brave under braking, you know. He was nowhere, and then he just let his car slid in. It almost looked like Lavender actually let him have that position. It was so easy. But maybe, you know, Ross was able to just catch him out so much. And look at Ross fly. As soon as he got away from Lavender, he's pulled out the gap already at this point. So that Ford GTE is starting to come alive.
Definitely seems like the 67 was being held up. And next on his list is Fredes in the number 96. The BMW is following his teammate in Christian Eisler, so they're just kind of flying information for the time being. We're less than 10 minutes into this race at this point, but we're already rifling lots of laps off. Our leaders have separated slightly. What was at 0.4 of a second has gapped up to about 0.9. Rubelar seems to lose a little ground here to Stevens now that the cars have warmed up. Does this mean Modov maybe could go on the attack? Because he's still close behind the 70.
He is still close, and we know how fast Karl Modov can be on his day, so maybe. But he will still just wait and see at this point. I don't think he will go on the attack just yet. He'll see if this trend continues, or whether he should just bide his time, wait and see. If this continues for a couple of laps, then he will try to attack. Sure, he will have lost some time at this point, but Karl is an experienced driver. He knows that a second lost right now at this point of the race, it means nothing. It means nothing, especially once they get to the later portions of this race. Because we have one factor here we haven't talked about much yet. We talked about it briefly in qualifying, but not in the race conditions yet. And that factor is traffic. It will mess up the later portion of this race so much that gaps made right now, they will reset at the later portions.
Ooh, and something's going on here because I see Fredes looks like he may have lost a position or gained one, not sure. Oh, and behind them, change between Lavender and LeBlanc. No, LeBlanc's a lap down, so maybe this was just cars trying to lap LeBlanc's. Certainly disrupted things, and look how much it's brought them together.
Yeah, and Fredes hasn't lost or gained any positions in the last couple of laps. Calvin neither, but Calvin was the one tipped to lose positions soon enough because he had some problems, as did Russo. He dropped well back, so Rafael Russo had a bit of problem, and here's the replay coming up.
Saw he had an off in turn one, so let's see if we've got it here. I know it was a bit of quite a while ago at this point because I managed to catch him coming back on track, but our first victim of Big Bend, here we go. Let's see if we've got it into here. We've got it on Mac Miller. We're looking for it. Oh, and there's Russo right there, right in front of him. Oh, that's actually quite a nice save considering usually I find I just spear off into the barriers when that happens to me.
Yeah, I haven't seen many guys who can actually hold it, out of the wall when they go wide in Big Bend, because it looks like a slow corner, but it's not at all slow, and you're so on the edge that when you hit that grass, usually you're just a passenger. So good job by Russo. He lost a lot of time, and he will have to catch himself up at the later portions of this race, but he's kept his car in one piece, and that is the most important thing.
Getting back down to Hubert and Pisano here.
Ooh, Pisano going past on the inside, so nice pass from him. And Ken Huber actually had to correct himself a little bit on the later portions of that corner, getting a great exit, but it was a little bit too great, so Ken Huber had to lift off, and that means Pisano gets past here and into position number 13. And Mac Miller is the next guy in that line of cars as well.
We jump back to that pack of five that we saw earlier, being led by Christopher Pfeffer in seventh. Eisler, Fredes, Ross, and Lavender all chasing, and they come onto the front stretch once more. It looked like they kind of expand a little bit. I thought maybe someone would be able to close in with a decent run. It's no such luck this time into the turn. They're starting to gain on Horatio Calquin in sixth, too, who is now 6 seconds behind fifth place. He could be a bottleneck in a moment, depending on what kind of pace we've got from Christopher.
Yeah, I mean, he had that lockup earlier on, and he just hasn't been the same ever since. So Christopher chasing him, Christian chasing him, Ignacio chasing him, and Michael Ambrose chasing him too. And Ross is in that ultra fast Ford GTE, so we'll have to see if he can get a little bit faster, as Ignacio just had a little bit of an issue in the penultimate corner, caught the curb a bit too much.
Jumping back up, and now I mentioned that Rubelar fell back to about 9/10 of a second. Well, that's come back down to 4/10 once more. And it doesn't seem to be because of traffic. I'm not really seeing any around them. They got a ways to get up to the back of the field, so it'll be at least another 5 laps or so.
But they had some cars earlier on there, but I'm not seeing it only being due to traffic. It was due to just, P2 getting faster as well. Rubilar getting faster and Modo following suit with him. But yeah, do go on. Sorry.
That's okay. I am curious, though, especially from your perspective, Ozzy. It's going to be hard to pass. We talked about that a lot. And in this series, we've seen mainly the pit strategy being drivers wait as long as possible, pit at the end of the fuel, and then come in. But with the track the way it is, does that mean it might be a little more enticing to try an alternate strategy, pit early, leapfrog somebody?
Do you have a crystal ball?
I wish I did.
Yeah, because that's the thing. You would ideally want to lose as little time as possible behind the lap traffic. And that means you gotta have all the time the standings open. You have to see, okay, when will I come to a big gaggle of cars? Are they fighting? What are they doing? Is it just a single car? I can pass them just fine. But if it's a battle for position in, say, P number 20, and you're coming up to lap them, and there's 3 cars battling, they're not gonna give you room. They're just gonna, they have their own battle to consider. They will have to give you room eventually, but it's not gonna happen inside the first corner. It's not gonna happen on the first convenient opportunity. No, you're gonna have to wait. And that is, I think, where Jesse's plan of having actually a spotter in this race to spot for him is gonna pay dividends, because he will have a guy looking all the time at these exact things that the driver cannot be, focusing on, because the driver has to drive. And then he will have a guy on his ear telling him, okay, you have a big gaggle of cars coming up in 2 laps, the pit window is open, do you want to come in? So he will have a race engineer, so to speak.
Man, we've had a lot of lucky drivers today. David Duino. And who was just off there on screen? Rubelar having a moment in the same corner that Duino just did. So let's watch from Nicholas's view.
That was a save and a half, I tell you what, show. That is what you call getting a little bit too greedy in the last corner, and that is what you call rally style on its exit.
We talked about, excuse me, American circuits. I'll use an American moment. We call that a pucker moment. So,
I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yes. As we jump back to Pfeffer, still continuing his battle, now right up onto the back of Horatio Calquin. But interestingly, he has dropped Christian Eisler in this. He's about a second and a half back. Oh, is another off there for Pfeffer coming through the West Bend.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And, the thing about Lime Rock is that I wouldn't look too much about the times or the gaps or so on, as we just have a James Hebb, no need to go to it, but James Hebb gone off in turn number 1 as well, so another victim of the Big Bend. The thing about Lime Rock is you have to be so precise, even more precise than normally with your driving line here, because there is just one line that is fast all throughout the circuit, and it's so precise, you have to get the entry so right. And track is so narrow that you're gonna feel it when you go an inch wide, and you're gonna lose a lot of time. So it's not only about being fast, it's about being consistent so much more than anywhere else.
And this is a battle between Fredez and Lavender. Looks like, and Ross as well. I think Ross got that from Lavender. Fredez trying to get into it. They now swing onto the front stretch, and Broderick trying to get back into the mix. He's got a good run. He's going to look to the inside, but he's well too far back from Ignacio. The 96 going to retain that 11th position. Boy, things got frantic for a moment, though.
Yeah, Ignacio, what happened to him is that he got wide on the chicane last time by, and that's where both Ross and Lavender got through him. And Fredez right now trying to defend the position as, Lavender going a little bit wide, heading onto the back section, heading onto the chicane as well. So a lot of mistakes started to happen at this point in the race, and this is where we are gonna see them. Drivers are gonna be pushing a little bit harder, trying to find that extra 100th of a second, even 10th of a second if they get greedy. And if they find it, in here you can easily gain 2, even 3/10 of a second by being a little bit more aggressive with the car. But if you take it too far, you're gonna hit one curb a little bit too hard, you're gonna take the chicane braking a little bit too late, you're gonna lose a lot of time, potentially a race car as well.
Zach sure has got the bit between his teeth. He took a big look down in the Big Bend, but it just did not pay off. Fredez holding him off. Now we ride on board with the number 14 car, continuing to give chase and definitely keeping Ignacio in check here.
Yeah, very much so. Ignacio trying to still return from the earlier mistake. You can see him being a little bit
sorry, we got to go to the lead. Lead is side by side. Rubelar along with Stevens, and he's trying around the outside of Big Bend. This might have been kicked off by traffic here because they are in the thick of it right now. The long way around. He doesn't quite pull it off, but he's got the inside into the left-hander. Can he finally get this done? Look at the momentum carried by Stevens, somehow keeping ahead of him, and he fends him off.
Wow, excellent defense from Jesse T. Stevens. Yeah, Jesse lost a lot of time last time by with the traffic, and that means Rubelar got right into him, and let's see if Rubelar can pass him again.
He does it. Rubelar with a brilliant move into the chicane, but it's coming right back at him.
Wow.
And Jesse Stevens not going to give this one up easily. He runs into him. He's off of the course, and he hits the wall. Into the tires, back across the course, and a hard smack into the tires at the pit entry. Rubelar might be done after that one.
Wow. And Karl Modov has inherited the lead as a result of this, with Stephen Ash in the second place and Jesse T. Stevens now all the way down to P number 3. A lot of drama here at lap 25, and into the last corner when they battle hard, that's bound to happen. And what an unfortunate sequence of events for Nicolas Rivilar, and you have to feel for him. He was chasing Stevens all the way through, and just as he finally got past Stevens with a crossover, side by side into the last corner, and bam, into the wall.
Big shakeup, 20 minutes into the race, and this is part of what caused it. You can see that brilliant over-under was then followed by another one right back at him by Rubilar. And then poor Jesse Stevens, just unfortunately, that little touch, and there just wasn't enough room to the outside of diving turn.
No, not at all. And you can, it's one of those situations where you can point fingers all day long, but in the end, it was just a racing deal, somebody going a little bit too wide, and an unfortunate result to what was otherwise a very good battle. But hey, it still keeps going because you got still lap traffic here. They are all the way up to P number 22 in terms of lapped cars, and it's Modov and Ash and Stevens, all those three coming into yet another part of traffic. And they are not far off. Rodrigo Mies has actually dropped some time, never mind. He was closer than this last time by, so the traffic definitely playing a role, and look at that playing even more of a role as the race progresses.
Corolla was the car that you saw off on the side of the track there. He gets it going, the 52s. Looks like a single car incident. Stephen Ash under a lot of pressure from a driver who we've seen is quite fast, Jesse Stevens. But Ash has actually made great gains today. Some of that inherited there after that big incident, but he qualified 5th. He's now in 2nd as the lapped car just goes off into the extra chicane just to get out of the way there.
Yeah, and he has when I saw him for the first time, Stephen Ash, I thought he was actually a Central European driver, maybe Austrian or German, because not only due to the name and the helmet that is white and red, but also because of his driving style. He has something very European about his driving, and you can see the origin of driver's Inter style a little bit. The way he approaches the race, he doesn't do anything extra. He just keeps his pace, keeps calm, keeps consistent, and brings home some good results. So, and at this point, you see what that results in. I think he has a real good shot at the victory here at Lime Rock Park, because he is one of those guys who just, doesn't make many mistakes and knows his pace and keeps up to it. You can see it here, Karmodov being able to make himself a gap here at the lead, and Ash is not trying too hard to go and chase car or anything. He's happy with his pace, happy where he can go, and he knows what he can do and what he cannot do. And that is going to be a very important quality out here today.
Definitely a very Prost-like race so far from that number 11. We're almost at the halfway point now. With these three separating, let's go back into the mid-pack. So the first cars that are down a lap, and that's Sean Duhamel, Lawson Christie, and Kyle Strykars. In fact, Kyle could have a go here into the chicane. He's going to think about trying to make it too wide, but then thinks better of it and pulls back. And that brings up a question in my mind I've been wondering about with that chicane. Are those curbs high enough? Is this sort of like Zolder maybe, where if you hit them, you could damage the car?
Yes. Anything else?
There you go. Well, thanks. Very, very Finnish answer. Oh, a moment up ahead of them. Did you see that from Duhamel? Catching it off of diving turn to keep the car from looping.
Yeah, I mean, he just hit the edge of the grass ever so slightly, and then he just caught it right at the exact
Ash had it off. Yeah. Ash just had it off. So second place, and what's this accident we see on screen? I looked away.
Yeah, that was some lapped cars behind him. Ash had an off at Big Bend. Just as I was saying, he never makes mistakes. He made a mistake. That's what's going to happen. And then behind him, it was Lawson Christie actually punting Sean Duhamel around. Duhamel on P number 21, and then Lawson Christie, P number 22, hit him right in the back, and then Christie spun as well. They both went around, and, Lime Rock Park, exit of Big Bend, Duhamel was there going backwards, and thankfully, didn't loop his car around on anyone, but had to spend a lot of time getting that thing pointed to the right direction.
I spend 1 second looking in the wrong direction, and I wind up missing a wreck on screen. Stephen Ash only fell to fourth with his mistake, by the way, so lost second place. Stevens now up into second from that. Mies is promoted to third.
Yeah, and maybe you should actually stop listening to those rock charts. You know why? Just keep looking at one direction.
Ah, I see where you were, what you did there. All right, back on screen, and we see Kyle Strykar is getting ready to be lapped by Horatio Calquin, who's attempting to run away from Christopher Pfeffer. He's gotten to the back of him, and we've been waiting for Pfeffer to try and get past Horatio, and this is a bad spot for Strykars, but he can't make the car disappear. It's just, unfortunately, Pfeffer's kind of in the wrong place at the wrong time to try and come upon him. Now he's going to squeeze through, but look at the time lost.
Oh, and Eisler going around the outside as well, and Strykart's having to avoid him as well, and Michael M. Ross is next by, so it's very interesting indeed, and I think Strykart is doing a great job here. Although right now he slowed down Ross a little bit too much there, just as I was saying, so he slowed down when he really should have just kept going at racing pace, and Ross is not going to be happy about that. He lost about 2 seconds in the chicane alone, but yeah, it's a difficult situation for both the lapped car and the passer and the passee, so to speak.
Is commentator's curse contagious today? Because, I mean, you've been struck twice, so I'm kind of just trying to keep myself clean here.
Ah, right, yeah.
As,
go ahead, say it. We all want to hear it anyway.
Meanwhile, let's get us a battle on screen, because I think P13 getting relatively close between Huber and Mac Miller getting in there. The number 97 trying to chase down that Ferrari. Not seeing as many Ferraris as we used to in this series. Not as popular of a car. That bright yellow one is hard to miss, though.
Yeah, they have adjusted the balance of performance a little bit, and as a result of that, the Ferrari is not quite as popular as it was before. Still very good on places like the Nürburgring, the Nordschleife, when it just has all that torque on the sixth gear. It's gonna pull and pull and pull some more. A very popular choice here, there, but not necessarily here. But Huber is having himself a good race so far. Mac Miller trying to follow him on, and these guys are in solid positions and pretty much, seem to be in positions where their pace would lead them to be in. Huber started 13th, is still 13th. Mac Miller lost 2 positions, is now 14th. It's been a very wide race for those guys, but a very interesting one where they just follow each other and try to get the best result possible. And what they're gonna have at some point in the back of their heads is how do they deal with the lap traffic as well. Not only lapping themselves, but also being lapped.
As we were watching this, Pfeffer finally closed back in on Calquin, and he's taking a look to the inside, but the Porsche's not quite there. Swings it wide, tries to diamond off the corner. Unfortunately, doesn't quite get the run that he needs. Now it comes back into the left-hander. Still about a car length back from Horatio Calquin, and this 666 is dealing with quite a bit of pressure, but dealing with it well so far.
Yeah, dealing very well indeed. I just wonder if, Pfeffer needs to be a little bit more aggressive at this point. Maybe not quite yet, but if he's still behind in a couple of laps, maybe it brings a question to my mind to whether Pfeffer needs a little bit more fighter in terms of products to make the pass really work here. But Calquin, so far so good. He's been able to gather his thoughts together, keep his line consistent, and not make any more mistakes. Where he just, tries to get his braking in order. That's been his big issue, and tries to avoid cutting the curbs too much. Those are the 2 big things you should avoid at Lime Rock Park, and he's been doing a great job of that in the last 5 or 10 laps.
Had a few pit stops. Looks like Ignacio Fredes is getting his, as Elijah Mitchell has been in and out for what I believe is a scheduled stop for him. Interestingly, I expected a lot more attrition here today, but I'm glad to be proven wrong. We've only lost 4 of our starters. Otherwise, 29 are still running, and running quite well.
Yeah, I mean, I expected a bit more from Mayhem as well, but here you go. PRL once again showing why they are one of the best sim racing leagues around because they can keep a clean pace. They can keep their drivers, they may not be world champion drivers, but they are very good drivers, and more importantly, they are mostly very, very clean, and that leads to good racing.
Huber looks like he's going to get away from the battle he was experiencing and take a pit stop. So here's at least one person trying a bit of an alternate strategy, and interestingly, he's almost exactly at the halfway mark, so maybe this was planned for him. The Northwest driver is getting his fuel and should be back out in just a moment here. We're looking at usually 12-second stops, 13 for him, so slightly slow, but not horrible.
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad at all. Of course, the later you go into the race, the faster the pit stops are going to be, and he's gonna come back into right in front of Cal Quinn, Pfeffer, and Eisler actually. And look at that battle pack. I saw Pfeffer losing a little bit of time last time by, but then in the last corner, that Porsche was just gonna go so fast out of the corner. It looked like nothing was gonna stop it, If you build a brick wall onto the main straight, that thing was gonna go through it. The way it just rolls out of that last corner and is able to gain on the BMW. But once again, at the tighter sections, you see the differences between these cars come to life. The BMW being able to take the curbs a little bit better.
I tell you what, I'm watching Christian Eisler, though, there behind them, because he's getting on the back of Pfeffer, but he has a bad exit out of diving turn. He re-loses all that time, but now they're having to deal with pitting cars as they come back out on the track and straight into the racing line. Really no way but to do that from that pit exit.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Anthony Pisano, what else are you going to do? You just have to come back to the racing line and then let Eisler pass on the next corner. Well done for him. But it's gonna be very interesting if leaders battle and somebody comes in front of them out of the pit lane. I mean, what you gonna do? You can't really do anything about it. Just, make sure everybody keeps their eyes open.
And we saw a good angle of the damage there. Right there, you can see how much is on this BMW of Nicholas Rubelar. Hopefully the car is handling well. That's really the important thing. Aerodynamics not as hugely important here.
Yo! Broderick hits Lavender in the last corner, and Lavender goes around and spins right on the pit entry. Please get it reversed and get into the pit lane right now, John. That's gonna be your saving grace, and he indeed does that. Very well done. So he can at least pit now that the tires are gone. But in the last corner, and if we see a replay of that, you can see exactly what Broderick did. Just came in a little bit too hot. And you can also see how difficult it is to actually save these cars and why it's so impressive when somebody does it.
I almost wonder if Lavender was meaning to go into the pits, and that's why he was slow in that corner. Ooh, look at this slow-mo. Oh, brilliant save. Wow, that was heading straight for the tires and then just snapped it right at the right time. Thankfully didn't go back into traffic, and then eventually was able to quite literally crawl in. Oh, and Fredes is off. Ignacio Fredes, down in 18th, finds himself spinning out in Big Bend into the grass, doesn't hit anything.
Yeah, and Fredes is also back on the track right now, but losing a lot of time. Fredes just coming in a little bit too hot into the corner, finding the BMW not willing to turn in anymore. The BMW wanted to be a NASCAR, didn't want to turn right anymore, and that's what's gonna happen. He hit that edge of the grass, and then it was just, sliding, and the agonizing slow spin.
Back to Christopher Pfeffer, who is under attack from Christian Eisler, who's going to look to the inside, but a defensive move down the middle of the track from Christopher Pfeffer, covers him off, squeezes him down, and no such luck for the 727 on this lap, but I have to imagine he's making Christopher sweat a little bit.
Yeah, and they got past Cal Quinn on the early parts of lap number 41. Cal Quinn breaking himself wide, Pfeffer going past him first, and then Eisler doing so on the heading into the chicane as well. So they got past Cal Quinn, and now Eisler and Pfeffer are battling for fifth, but that's gonna lead into Eisler spinning off because he got hit by his teammate on the exit of the chicane. Eisler made a little mistake and, just headed into the wall right after that because Cal Quinn, well, not much he can do. Just took good exit, try to see if there's room on the inside, but then Eisler bounced from the curb and, into the wall, Eisler went.
I don't think there was contact between them.
There definitely
There
was.
Oh.
Yeah, at the exit of chicane, Eisler, just lost it, spun, and then he got a little bit of speed from Cal Quinn. You didn't see it necessarily, but you definitely saw how the contact affected him, and how it affected Cal Quinn as well.
It looks very, very subtle. That is a
Yeah,
shame.
it was. Yeah, it was, but it was, what turned it from a potential save to a game over.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it is a game of inches sometimes with racing, and unfortunately, the inch is wound up leading right into the barrier for Christian Eisler, and now he's in a pit lane. 5th place, who we have been watching lots of great battles with, is separated slightly. It is still Pfeffer up at the front of them. Cal Quinn backing off slightly, and Michael Ross also giving some gap. They are starting to close in on the end of the pit window, so we should expect to see most of the drivers start to come in within the next 10 minutes.
Yeah, indeed, Eisler is in the pit lane as we speak, and we have another driver in the pits as well. That is Louis Pime Jr., but he's been there for quite a while. So it will be interesting to see who of the lead group will make their move first into the pit lane. I mean, Karmodov right now having a comfortable lead for himself of 1.6 seconds. Stevens is second, and Reese is third.
Oh, that's Pfeffer's off.
Oh no.
Pfeffer is in the wall on diving turn on the entry.
How?
He must have dipped the wheels off. It
yeah.
started in West Bend.
Yeah,
And
he
West
went a little
Bend
bit
goes
wide. And oh no, he hit the end of that curb. There's a bump on the end of that curb because there is water, one of those things that let water out, a sewer.
Drain.
There you go. A drainage, yeah. Yeah, drainage cover there, and then he hit that, and the left rear bounced in the air and sent the car into the left side wall. So it looks very weird from TV cam, but once you show, you can see it when you slow it right down, the car's rear bouncing in the air just a little bit, and when you are at full throttle going over a curve, a hump, that's all you need.
Ooh, and it's not over here between Cal Quinn and Ross, because Ross around the outside, and that Ford is got the brakes on good, but he's going to have to continue the battle through both apexes of this long right-hander as they come now to the left-hander, where it switches back in favor of the 67, and he finally gets it done and cracks himself into the top 5.
Great job by Roster. He never gave up. Lost a lot of time in traffic, he did, but once again being able to climb up into that top 5. And you remember Sebring, where Ross was starting outside of top 10 and made a great recovery throughout the race. And once again, we're seeing the Ford come back to life.
Just been a magnificent show from that 67. 20 minutes left now on the clock, and a lot more drivers have come in and out. Sean Romig has been the latest. He returns to the track. We're still waiting on Modoff, Stevens, Mies, Ash, Ross, Cal Quinn, who we were just watching battle, and Miller of our top 7. A few scattered throughout the mid-pack as well, who need to get their fuel.
Yeah, and there is a P19 actually. There is a Fred S, who we were watching making a mistake earlier on, and Elias Mitchell fighting for that position. Almost one lap down. It's now 18th position. They are battling over, and Fred is going a little bit wide on the exit of turn number 1 and going into turn number 2. Still able to hold on, but a good battle between the two BMWs here.
And make that a Porsche in the mix too. That is Jeff Carollo, 4th position right behind them in the number 52.
And Jeff made a little bit of a mistake breaking into the chicane. And you know what's interesting about that battle? Guess who they are right ahead of?
Our leaders, aren't they? I think they're going a second lap down. Yeah. That's Carl Modoff approaching. And it looks like Horatio Cal Quinn is taking a stop. Yeah. I was just about to say, if I was Modoff and I saw that battle, I would come in now so that I don't get tangled up in that. And what do you know? The 948 is heading towards his stall.
What a perfect pit stop for him as well. He made that decision right at the last second, and still he was able to get that car stopped and actually get it slowed down right to the pit entry, because that's not easy. You have to turn right off the last corner, and then you have to brake, and then you have to negotiate the chicane.
It's understating that Mac Miller had a spin, and I think that, yeah, that was in the chicane. So that was a self-spin, it looks like. He just caught too much curb. He got it going once again. Lost a lot of time. Ross is also pitted. He's in his pit stall. So where is Stevens? Oh, Steven made contact. I just went to him, and he got into the back of Carollo on pit entry.
So GTE Stevens, a lot of drama for him. Coming out of the last corners, obviously he can't lose any time here because he knew what car did. So he was very unfortunate in that he ended behind Carollo on the pit entry. Carollo ended up braking a lot more suddenly than Stevens anticipated, and a lot more than he needed to, because the pit lane speed limit is 56 kilometers an hour, or 35 miles an hour, I want to say. And Carollo was braking a little bit too much, and Stevens, hitting the back of him, maybe not able to see that coming. But thankfully it was very, very minor contact, and thankfully he hadn't quite pitted yet.
He's pits, so he pushes it hard into pit lane. Look at him struggle at the wheel with that. So that should hand the lead back because Ash is coming in. By the way, with Stevens' troubles, he got smoked in the pit stops. It is now 2.5 seconds between Modoff and Stevens.
Yeah, and Modoff got a very good lead for himself, and that's that's the difference of pitting at the right time versus pitting at the wrong time, because it could have very well been Modoff running into the back of someone. And here we go, Mies coming out of the pit lane, and is he gonna actually get past? No, not quite getting past Stevens, but look at that, Mies is now right behind Jesse Stevens.
Yeah, it's less than a second between the 36 and the 88. So Rodrigo Mies could see himself jumping up into second. But here's what's curious. After the pit stops are done, well, what was the finishing order of the podium last race? It was Modoff, Stevens, Mies.
Yep.
Right now, it's Modoff, Stevens, Mies.
Around they go. It's like, football is a game, the actual football, soccer, is a game where 22 grown men kick at the ball for 90 minutes, and in the end Germany wins. It's the same thing.
Well, right now, Karl Modoff, who's had some dominant championships in his time, one of which he won every single race of the 10-race season, could be looking at trying that again. I mean, the way things have been going, he's certainly been strong thus far. It's not a huge margin of victory at the moment. It is still small enough that a mistake or some black traffic could hand it away. So he does have to be careful. But so far, Karl is back on his game. Oh, and speaking of traffic, Pisano was a little bit in his way there through the chicane. Mac Miller, the last one needing his stop, other than Sean Duhamel, who's actually just coming in now.
Yeah, and that means they have all come down the pit lane. And that also means that, well, we're gonna have the later portion of this race battled out on the track. And another interesting battle I should bring up is Donald Olson versus Fredes. Once again, cars number 33 and 96 battling for the 21st position, because once again Fredes in the mix, and both of these cars are damaged, and both of them are looking very racy indeed here, Joe, and we might see an interesting move as Fredes tries to the inside of the chicane, but thinks better of it at the last second.
They might both have damage, but it's contrasting fortunes. Olson started 29th, he's up to 21st. He's made some decent gains, whereas Fredes starting in 9th is back to 22nd position and is working hard to try and regain what he has lost. He's got 15 minutes to do it. He's much tighter down in the apex of the diving turn, and you can see the better run that gives him as they cross the line up into Big Bend with the inside and better braking. Give Fredes 21st.
Indeed so, and that means that he is, of course, Blackjack Fredes now.
I like that. Let's jump up because we got a battle between Broderick and Cal Quinn, and they're almost side by side. The 666 trying to hold on to 6th position, and Zach really getting his nose in, slowing them both up through the diving turn. He's going to stay with it as Horatio goes defensive down the San Posey straight, holds it all the way to the inside. Much better braking for the 14. Is this going to give him a position, though? Once again, doing it the hard way, the long way around, and no.
Cal Quinn was very aggressive on the exit, chopping the nose off Jack Broderick there. And Jack was very kind of fortunate, that he didn't get a better exit. He got a little bit loose, but you can clearly see Cal Quinn was not willing to give up that position there. He just pressed the throttle on the exit, was not about to leave any room at all, and that's gonna come back and bite him if he does it again. You do it the first time, it's fine because he got ahead, but he's employing very Formula 1-like driving tactics here.
And once again, looking way better in that final corner, and Cal Quinn knows it, so he immediately covers him off, but he's much farther alongside. If he has good enough braking, he could maybe get this one done. The sun comes out, but will it shine on Broderick? He's not going to be forced off the exit this time. He holds his ground. That gives him the inside for the left-hander, and that's going to give Broderick 6th.
Cal Quinn tried for a crossover there on the exit though, but had to lift off because Broderick saw that coming, was able to get it turned in, and Cal Quinn still trying to prolong the battle because he knows the longer this race goes on, the further away will Jack Broderick go. And once again, Cal Quinn making a little bit of a mistake here on the chicane, and that means I think he's lost enough ground to Jack Broderick so that the battle is, if not cancelled, then at least on hold.
Now, the one thing they need to worry about is Nicholas Rubilar, who's led portions of this race, is behind them. And if he's got his car back under control, he could run them down. He's about 5 seconds behind. And I'd have to check to see what the pace comparison is between himself and either Broderick or Cal Quinn. But again, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that he could run them down.
Could very well be. Could very well be indeed. And that is always the thing we're gonna have to talk about in these long races. And we have another battle now.
Well, there's your answer right there on screen, as Rubilar's much quicker. He's been chopping away at Broderick for quite a while.
Yeah, Miller Pisano are battling on. They have been battling on for quite some time now, and it is still happening out here on the racetrack. So we'll have to wait and see how that develops on. Pisano 13.
Oh, we got a wreck in the background. That's Stephen Ash.
Oh.
Stephen Ash involved in that.
Oh no!
He was trying to lap Jean-Marc Tremblay, and he spins himself.
Yeah.
And I thought he got hit, but he just put up a lot of smoke here.
Yeah, that can happen so easily with the BMW because you got the anti-dive in the front, so the front doesn't really dive, so you don't necessarily feel the front turning in, and he was just coming onto the inside, lapping another car. The car decided to go wide, but he was braking too late. He lifted off the brake too aggressively, all the weight got to the rear, and then he spun.
And
he's
this
having
is a
trouble
live
again.
picture. Yeah, following in the tire tracks of other cars, off track in Big Bend. Now he's retained 4th place. Michael Ross is now about 3 seconds back from him, so Stephen probably quite glad that he built up the gap that he did during this race.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Lime Rock Park. You don't have many long straights. You don't have a lot of time for the tires to cool down. It's just fast corner. I think his tires were still a little bit overheated from that spin earlier on, and then you have to navigate a couple of fast corners. You go into turn number 1 and you spin again. Well, don't spin again, but you break yourself wide.
And a bit of a flopping back and forth up here for 2nd place. Stevens has lost ground on Modov, but for a while it looked like he was dropping knees. But the number 88 in 3rd has got it back into 6/10 of a gap. And Stevens it might be the lap traffic in front of him. This is Eisler and Romig. They are not fighting for position, but both are lapped cars. And Stevens, if he doesn't manage to get by soon, will have a mirror full of the number 88.
Oh, and Mees going a little bit wide in the last corner. He's feeling it, and he remembers Sebring last week. And I remember Sebring last week as well. You remember Jesse T. Stevens and Rodrigo Mees battling it out for that 2nd place? Are you ready for round number 2 of that one? Because I sure am. My body has never been this ready. Oh boy. Here we go.
10 minutes to sort this one out, and in very cramped confines for these two drivers. They're still trying to catch up to the back of Eisler and Romig as well. and they don't seem really eager to try and let them through. Eisler, of course, is a relatively fast driver, so he might be keeping pace with Stevens. Still, this can't be making the number 36 happy. The Georgia driver wants to try and close down.
Oh, ahead of them! Ahead of them, it's Sean Romick spinning off from P number 11. He got a little bit too wide in the last corner, and he hits hard into the inside wall, and that's one caution ridden off. Boy, and then he reverses into the pit wall as well, which is one way to get the car out of the way.
Yeah, I think he was just trying to get out of the firing line and get himself some space to turn around. This is why it amazes me that it's still, in the real world, cars of this level able to race around this track, because there are very few small wrecks here.
And look at the gap between Modov and Stevens now. Modov made a mistake in the chicane, locked up his brakes, went a little bit wide, and all of a sudden he's lost a lot of time, and it almost looks like all of the cars have now disappeared around them, you know. Not because of technical reasons or anything, but they are in a quiet spot. And it's Car Modov, it's Jesse Stevens, it is Rodrigo Mies, it is top 3. It is some 7-8 minutes of racing remaining, and it is a victory on the line.
This is what we'd love to see, is the gaps coming together instead of stretching apart. We could have some spicy racing here at the end. Only about 8 or 9 more laps on the board for these drivers.
And everybody is struggling.
Yeah. In fact, the temperature has stayed very consistent today. It's still at 97 degrees Fahrenheit. So I'm wondering if they're finding all these fast corners you keep talking about. It's just chewing up those left side tires.
They are. They so are. I mean, you don't have any time to rest. You have to push all the way throughout the race. And remember that pit stop, it is just for fuel. They don't get a fresh set of rubbers. They will have to finish with the same set of tires they have started with. So, you know, Modov, Stevens, Mies, all feeling the effects. Everybody's making mistakes. The track is slick. It's rubbered in. And it has been all throughout the race in that 78 Fahrenheit temp, in the 37 degrees Celsius. Stevens breaking himself wide and, you know, just making mistakes.
Oh no!
Eisler took out Rodrigo Mies.
Yes, but Mies did not make that situation very good at all. He cut the course. He outbraked himself into the chicane and just decided to take the old uphill. When he comes back, he almost takes out Stephen Ash in the process. Let's stay with it.
And Eisler just, you know, Eisler had nowhere to go, and those guys are teammates as well. So, you know, obviously that was not on purpose by Eisler, just a miscommunication, really.
Yeah, and now watch when he comes back on, as we come back live. But I can tell you that Ash was coming up to try and get the position from him and almost shoved off course as Mies returned straight to the apex of West Bend. Here we see the damage on the rear of the BMW.
Yeah, and the thing is that you look at the reason why Eisler was on the left side of the track. I think that, you know, he wanted to be on the right, but then he saw Mac Miller in his mirrors, gave room to Mac Miller, was focused on the car number 97, and didn't realize that he had his teammate on the left.
That was Stephen Ash getting the spot away from Mies in West Bend. It's rare that I see passes successfully into that fast right-hander, but Ash has pulled it off, and he's got himself into third place now.
Yeah, and look how far away the third place is right now.
So we got to change for position down in ninth as Huber manages to also squeak by John Lavender. Let's take a look. I think this is in the same corner. So right in succession, 2 passes into the penultimate turn here at Lime Rock Park. That is a rare feat.
Yeah, Huber got a very good exit out of the chicane, whereas Lavender made a mistake in the chicane. And the chicane, did somebody, you know, drop some oil in there? Did somebody, you know, down a barrel? Did somebody's engine fail there? Oh, and Michael Ross has made a mistake, on the early portion of the lap, and he's been into the wall, actually.
Hard into the wall.
Yeah, in turn number 3, and here we see it again. So he goes a little bit wide. He's actually following Rodrigo Mies. He's within a shot of a podium here. He goes a little bit too wide, hits the grass, and, you know, a slow, agonizing spin into the inside wall, and he has to reverse himself and retire from the race. What an unfortunate situation for Michael Ambrose, and what an unfortunate situation for the lone Ford GTE as well.
And I can tell you that Ross did apologize for his re-entry as this battle for the lead continues to heat up. That third car in line, that's Mac Miller. He's actually up to 10th now, but he's a lap down, so he's not a part of this. He's just giving watch, trying to stay out of it. I wonder if Modov as well is struggling here at the end, because Stevens was certainly not this close. I feel like he's struggling more so, though. Oh, and he's deep into the corner, looking for the over, and they come together. Stevens gets into the back of Modov.
Yeah, and what a great job by Mac Miller, not passing either of them, you know, just losing a lot of time as well. And here you see a replay, and you can see what happens there. You know, once again, Modov trying to defend the inside, trying to get his braking under control, but he just cannot slow that car down anymore. He just has no tires to slow that car down. And as a result of that, he tried to keep going, but Stevens right into him.
Modov is in the pits. Stevens inherits the lead. Did Carl short fuel it? Did he get damaged? Was his suspension touched in that contact? What has happened?
Or did he get out? You know, he's chasing the tires for some reason. Or was that his 13th incident?
Oh, that could be too. That is a good point.
Yeah, I'll have to check that. I can't see it right now, but he's just slowing down. Oh no, he actually, no. He lost a tire. Look at his car. If we can bring up a replay on that one briefly, when he's in the last corner of lap number 67, look at his car when he comes into the pits. The way it slides, you know, the way it just leans on the one end as he comes into the pit. That is a tire gun.
Let's see if we can pull it up. I've heard of that happening now with this new damage model as well. You can cut down a tire, can't you?
Yeah, that I think is what happened there. Has to be, because the car leaned in so weirdly. You know, when he was braking, and it gave one side up, you know. I think he lost a tire. That or he had a drive-through, but it looked like to me I lost a tire. But, you know, Cal Queen is coming to the pit lane as well.
Here's the initial incident. Hard to tell. What lap is it though? Because I'm trying to see how much time we have left.
But yeah, let's meanwhile jump back to live pictures, because we have a battle for P number 3 between Rodrigo Mies and Jack Broderick. And they are actually very close to each other here. And Broderick going to the left side of Mies into the turn number 1, and Broderick trying to pass him on the outside. Mies on the inside, and Mies sliding a little bit wide. They make contact, but they are still, and they make contact again. They touch again. I can't believe it. It's like Villeneuve and Arnoux at Dijon, and Broderick is able to take that position away from Rodrigo Mies, but Mies still trying to fight back. So after all the dust has settled, it's Jack Broderick.
We've got to go to Stevens, because we are on the white flag lap, and he's coming to the checkered flag now. He didn't get the win last time, but he will today here at Lime Rock Park. Jesse Stevens is your winner. I believe we got 0 to go, but we're not seeing a checkered flag. Trying to double check if this is actually it. Looks like 2 laps to go. No, excuse me. It is still on. So apologies. Our timing and scoring getting us a little bit in a tizzy here.
But if Jesse loses this win in the last couple of laps, you know who he's going to blame it on, right?
It'll be my fault for sure.
That's like, shout out. Congratulations for the shout out 1 minute before the game is over. That's a hockey joke.
As Stephen Ash, 7 seconds behind, is certainly not looking like he is going to catch him at this point. Boy, Mies and Broderick with a nice little fight that they've had, but Broderick fending him off well to keep 3rd place.
Yeah, and take it away in the last points of this race. We remember what happened to me is the back end of his car is all bent up. And that means that Jack Broderick, out from nowhere really, has inherited the podium for himself. And look where he started from. Jack started 14th in this race.
Huber had an off in the chicane, but it's we don't have time to go and look at it right now. Not sure what happened, but he was definitely off course. In the meantime, we got one more corner to go for John Stevens for sure this time on the final lap. As he comes down the front stretch, this time for real, flashing his lights and weaving in celebration. The 36 takes the win in Connecticut.
Yes, he does, second. And it's Ash's second, and Broderick gonna come home in a brilliant P number 3, ahead of Rodrigo Mies, ahead of all the other challengers, and Rubilar is the guy who in the end is gonna finish this race in P number 5.
Nice recovery from Rubilar. At least a top 5 will gift him a number of positions. There's not many cars on the lead lap, by the way. Karl Modoff, the next one, in 6. Lavender manages to get it home in the 999 for a 7th. And the last two on the lead lap are Huber with his spin late on, and Jean-Marc Tremblay, who was so quiet today, I don't think we even really mentioned him at all. So with that, we're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. Stick around because on screen you're going to see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Welcome back to Lime Rock Park. We expected some exciting racing around the tight little confines of this place, and the Precision Racing League's GTE series definitely gave it to us. Jesse Stevens took away the victory, and it swapped back and forth between a number of drivers up at the front of this race. We usually don't see that many lead changes in this series. Stephen Ash wound up in second from 5th place, but the story of the race, what a climb for Zach Broderick, going from 14th to 3rd, managing to survive all the chaos around him. Rodrigo Mies winds up in P4, unfortunately getting a little bit of a shove from behind from his teammate late in the race after an off-track. Karl Modoff goes from a potential win down to 6 after slight contact cut down a tire and sent him to 6th place. Caleb Lavender with 7th was followed by Ken Huber in P8, and then Jean-Marc Tremblay was 9th, and the first car lap down is Mac Miller in 10th.
And in 11th position, it is Anthony Pisano, Elijah Mitchell 12th, Sean Romick 13th, Rafael Russo ending up 14th, Horacio Calguin 15th, Kyle Strikehart 16th, Lawson Christie 17th, and Ignacio Rodriguez Fredes 18th. Strikehart's Christian Fredes 2 laps down already, Donald Olson finishing 19th, 3 laps down, and Sean Duhamel rounding out your top 20, 3 laps down as well.
Start to get into drivers who had some big problems. Ted Lowendick was 4 laps down in 21st, and Michael M. Ross 7 laps down. He had to come in and get a lot of repairs. He was 22nd. Christian Eisler in 23rd. And then you get into the DNFs from there on down. You can see a lot of cars multiple laps behind, and just didn't have a good day today. We do have the driver that had the best day of anybody, and that is Jesse Stevens, our winner here, saying, "Gooby, please, I think I deserve this victory." Jesse, congratulations.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Yeah, that was one hectic race for sure.
So talk about towards the end there, you and Modoff obviously having an intense battle and a little bit of contact made. Did you get any sort of damage from that contact? Because it seems like, from what we understand, it may have cut down the tire of Modoff's right rear.
No, actually, I finished that race with 3% tire life left in the front left. I was sort of taking it easy towards the very end. I'm pretty sure Modoff ended up with a 0% at the end, and that's what caused him to.
So we were wondering why he suddenly slowed down as much as he did and then had to come into pit lane. But from pole to pole, I mean, the numbers really are not going to tell the story. You said yourself it was a crazy race. I mean, tell us a little bit about some of the moments, because I have to imagine we didn't even catch them all.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of, because this track bottlenecks really hard, especially with the chicane, so you had to be really precise with your passes. And it was just lucky that a lot of the guys were really nice, were letting you through. There was one I had to force, and I feel bad, but I had to do it to keep the gap close to Carl. But I can't remember what the guy's name was, but it's my bad.
So now that we've got Lime Rock out of the way, and this being probably one of the tougher tracks to try and keep clean on, are you looking forward to going to Road America? That tends to be a driver favorite.
Oh yeah, for sure. Already practicing this week for IMSA, and it's already looking really good. The rest of the calendar looks really good. This is the only one I was really stressed about.
Awesome. And I believe, Austin, you have a question about the championship?
Yeah, I know it's still early stage of the season and you don't want to think about it just yet, but it's been a story of 2 winners this season. You were second in Sebring behind the winner Car Modoff there. Now you're a winner at Lime Rock Park. We head to Road America. Do you think it's going to be between you and Car this season, or are you seeing somebody else potentially make a charge for the championship as well?
I see Rodrigo being there. He seems to be consistently running third. This race was kind of an outlier with all the different elements, especially after Sebring. That was a really fun race. But yeah, I think it'll be between us 3, and then I don't know. I think Steven might have it in a couple of tracks.
All right, cheers. I got no more questions for you. But if you would like, to thank any potential sponsors, friends, family, whoever makes it happen for you, then go ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, Jesse Stevens, winner here at Lime Rock Park.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank all the guys at Radicals. They, really great group of guys to work with. They help me out, all this other stuff. All the sponsors over at there. Gary for paying for my premium membership to secure my spot for the championship, because I think I was like 2 spots away from being bumped off before he did that. So I appreciate that. And then my buddy Dion for being my crew chief that race. We were crunching numbers, trying to figure out if there would be a spot to pit for clean air, and that just didn't seem like the case. But yeah, pretty much sums it up. I'm looking forward to the next race.
Awesome stuff there from Jesse Stevens, who's unfortunately the only driver to come and chat with us. So we got to give a poke to Stephen Ash and Zach Broderick to come and maybe talk to us next time, because they had some cool races to watch, especially Zach with his impressive run up to the podium. But in the meantime, we're going to thank our sponsors before we take off. First of all, thanking IESN for putting us on. So iRacing, if you want to subscribe to them, just click on the big red button below, and you will catch all of their races on your YouTube feed. Also to SIMSA, the Simulation Motorsports Affinity. You can find them at simsa.net if you want to see how you can get involved in the global sim racing community. And also to Butt Kicker for providing many of the prizes here in this series, as they've done for many seasons now. Check them out at buttkicker.com. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music to see the screen for how to get hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Aussie and Sean and Dougie, as well as to our spotter Caitlin in the background for feeding us information. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com, or you can check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel. For that, and Facebook is Global Sim Racing Channel. Instagram is GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to support us, make sure and check out our merchandise store. Going to get control of my voice here. That's at gsrc.storenv.com. We've got a link in the description below. Make sure if you buy some of our merch and post it to Twitter, give it the hashtag RedBrand, and we'll make sure and see if we can get that up for you. Next race, as we mentioned, is going to be at Road America. That'll be Tuesday, March 31st at 9 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.
Cheerio.